Hi everyone, it's Wednesday. Sorry, we've got a roundup for you today on the channel. Bit of Celtic news, a few other things as well. Sorry, just back. I was just out for my lunch there. Absolutely stuffed. Asked for the large fish. And if you didn't get that reference, I'm sure someone in the comments will explain what that all was. How are we all feeling? I feel like the last derby match, there was so much preparation and previewing we had to do for that game because we had like a full 2 weeks where not a lot happened for most of it and all our eyes were on the derby match, the fact it was a huge game in the league. In contrast, I feel like this one is creeping up on us all a little bit. I mean, we're at Wednesday evening now. Well, you are by the time you're watching, or later. We're not far away from kick-off at Hampden, and I feel like not as many people are chatting about this one. I'm sure it'll come into focus very quickly over the next couple of days. I'm doing all right, thanks very much for asking. On today's video, daft intro aside, we do have a little bit of a roundup as to what's happening at Celtic. Not a great deal, but there's a few bits we can get our teeth into. The main chunk of this video will be taken up with what I was doing last night, and before you form any ideas, I was at a football match. Celtic B were playing Rangers B at Celtic Park. I was there for 67 Hail Hail. I got to speak to the Celtic B team manager Tommy McIntyre. I got to do loads of filming. I got to give my thoughts on the game outside the stadium in front of a camera, much like I'm doing now, and you will get to see all of that stuff in this video. You just have to wait a good few minutes while we rattle through the Celtic news. And there has been a real shortage of Celtic news. It just feels to me, without knowing for sure, that Celtic are just kind of getting on with things quietly at Lennoxtown. We're working hard and we will shine at the weekend again, just like we have shone for the last 3 or 4 weekends. Hopefully that's what happens anyway. Really not a great deal coming out of the club, although I have picked out a couple of interesting bits that have happened over the last 24 hours or so. Very quotey today's video, not quite as quotey as yesterday's video, which was very, very quotey. Check that out for some of the worst takes on Ange Postecoglou from the start of the season, not featuring me. In terms of Ange, he did an interview with Celtic TV yesterday. In it, he revealed that David Turnbull had picked up a pretty hard knock, but he is hopeful that Turnbull won't be missing for too long. Seems like he's certainly a doubt for the derby this weekend, though. The other big injury doubt Celtic have, Georgios Giakoumakis. Celtic are still waiting on final scans, although Giakoumakis feels that it's not too bad. Although I feel like we have heard that already this season with Jota and also Kyogo, and look how long those guys missed with hamstring injuries. So fingers crossed with regards to Giakoumakis. Now, Josip Juranovic gave an interesting insight on the dynamics of the Celtic squad as players jostle for starting berths in Ange's team. Juranovic said there is competition for places, but we don't see it like we are fighting each other. We have friendships and we will give everything for each other on the pitch. It doesn't matter if I'm on the bench and Anthony Ralston is playing. We know we have that quality player playing instead. That's what happens at a big club like Celtic. Even in training every day, the boys have to be at their best as we are fighting to get a place in the team. Because of that, it helps the team reach high standards. Whenever I have seen a Celtic team firing on all cylinders, it's always been when there has been real competition for places. Players on the bench who you could make a good argument for starting games. We had that under Brendan Rodgers in the Invincible season. I would argue we didn't have it under Brendan Rodgers quite as much in the subsequent year and a half he was our manager. So hopefully going forward, Ange can keep this real motivated squad, regardless actually of whether players are actually playing or not. Ange has also been speaking about the overall squad and the contributions in training he's been getting from players who haven't been playing. Ange said it's not just about game day. That's the result of a week's work, Boys on the bench who didn't get on against St Johnstone: Nir Bitton, Yosuke Ideguchi, Anthony Ralston. Stephen Welsh wasn't in the squad. James Forrest and Mikey Johnson. All those guys every day at training are producing fantastic levels. From that, can we take it that James Forrest is back in training and will be available for the weekend? He has already scored a big semi-final goal at Hampden this season. If he wants to score another on Sunday, I don't think too many of you watching will be against that. I do feel like this Celtic team are in a strange place at the moment with regards to the amount of fixtures that they're playing. For basically as long as most of us can remember, certainly the last 4, 5, 6 seasons, Celtic have been playing 2 games every week, pretty much. Now, I know it dries up a little bit at the end of the season, but this season especially, it feels like Celtic have gone from 2 games every single week, like all the way through the season till the last month or so when we've just had 1 game a week. And it does take a bit of getting used to. That has meant less game time for certain players who had been playing a lot earlier on in the season. Anthony Ralston's an obvious one. He was probably playing 1 out of every 2 games, 1 a week basically. Now he's not really getting that opportunity because we're only playing 1 a week. Matt O'Reilly would be another good example. But I still think players like Ralston can be huge players for Celtic next season, hopefully when we're fighting on all fronts, including the Champions League, especially when the World Cup is going to be taking place when it is next season in winter, which, don't worry, I'm not about to go into. Or am I? No, I'm not. I'm definitely not. I don't care enough about that. But it just feels at the moment like everything is kind of going Celtic's way, and it's all just about playing at the weekend, getting the win, and moving a step closer towards the league or the Scottish Cup. So that's where we're at. Now, Rangers defender Philip Helander, who is famous, I think, for being the second best Swedish centre-back currently in Glasgow, he's out for the rest of the season. And what does that mean, Stevie? Correct, he's going to miss this weekend. Thanks very much for that, mate. I really need to stop picking on Stevie. Poor fella's taking a hell of a lot of abuse. Now, let's move on to Villarreal, who will be getting some abuse from me if they don't start losing some European matches. The frustrating possibility of them winning the Champions League and forcing us to go through a round of qualifiers. Should we win the league? Moved a step closer last night. That's because Villarreal beat Bayern Munich 2-1 on aggregate to make it through to the semi-finals of the Champions League, where they will face probably, almost certainly, Liverpool, assuming that they get the job done against Benfica tonight. On the other side, Real Madrid winning the competition would not be bad news for us at all. It would actually be good news. Given that they are guaranteed to finish in the top 4 in Spain. They will face either Man City or Atletico Madrid in the semi-final. Tonight we should be up for Man City, hopefully, as difficult as that may be to support an English side. Just think back to 1974 and what those Atleti players did, and that should hopefully help you. Worth saying the whole Russian situation could also aid Celtic there. Okay then, let's move on to last night when I was at the Celtic B versus Rangers B match at Celtic Park in the Lowland League. It proved to be a frustrating evening for Celtic and I suppose Celtic fans to an extent, as Hamish from the past will now explain. So I'm here at Celtic Park. It's around about 10:15 and a bit of a disappointing night for the B team. It finished Celtic 0, Rangers 1, and if I'm being totally honest, I don't think we can have too many complaints about it. I thought Rangers in general were the better team. They had the better chances, especially in the first half. They had a couple of really good opportunities and they should certainly have gone into half-time ahead. Second half, I thought Celtic were much improved. Had a couple of opportunities. Rocco Vata, who I thought was quite impressive, had a good kind of shot from the edge of the box that was parried away by the goalkeeper. Owen Moffat had one where if he'd have showed a bit more composure, he would probably have scored, but he ballooned it over the bar. But still, Rangers were probably the more threatening even in that second half. Their goal actually came from a set piece, so they didn't really carve Celtic open for the goal that won the game. But in general, probably a deserved win for Rangers. And, you know, we need to give them something here. Hopefully we're going to beat them at the weekend when it really matters. We beat them 2 weeks ago. We're looking good for the title. We basically win every trophy anyway that's played in front of fans. So, you know, we'll give them that tonight. When I mention fans, great crowd tonight. I mean, I'm absolutely awful at trying to work out and estimate how many fans are at a stadium at a time. We didn't actually get an official crowd from the club. I would have estimated around about 3,500-4,000 people in the stadium tonight, which is pretty good for a B team match on a Tuesday night when it was a bit rainy and Champions League football was on, etc. So quite pleased to see such a good crowd there, and I think off the back of the women's game here a couple of weeks ago when they got a good crowd as well, it's more evidence that Celtic are a united club here. In general, a frustrating night for the Celtic B team, but I think a lot to be gained from playing in that atmosphere. You know, the boys ultras group were there tonight. They were making a hell of a lot of noise. It was actually quite a hostile atmosphere at times, and they would certainly have taken a lot more from a game like tonight, playing in front of those fans, playing on that pitch in a stadium like Celtic Park, where they'll all be hoping to play one day, some of them already have obviously, than they would playing normally at the Pennycar Stadium in Airdrie. So you can see why Celtic have done this. It was clearly a worthwhile exercise, even though the result didn't go our way. Now, we got the chance to speak to the Celtic B team manager, Tommy McIntyre, after the game, and we're going to let you hear some of what he had to say right now.
No, I think we're obviously disappointed because I thought it's a great arena for our young players to learn their trade, and even the fans backing was really good. I thought we did better the second half. We did the first half. We created better chances. First half, any chances they had, it was probably our own doing. You know, we ended up with a wee bit sloppy with the passing, a wee bit slow. Probably the speed of play. It's got to be higher. It's got to be a higher tempo for us. I don't think we were quick enough on the ball. Second half, I think when we did do that, I thought then we created the best chances, and then we got the chances. Our final ball was probably a poor decision, you know. So and then obviously losing the goal against the run of play and disappointing a set play.
Yeah. How are the boys feeling? Because of course we've seen the first team get a good win here, and the women's team get a good win at the occasion. So take the boys up maybe a bit gutted about it.
No, absolutely. I think anytime we play these games, if you don't win or you don't perform, then you're absolutely they're disappointed. But they've got to learn because this is the squad that are, you know, trying to get as close to the first team as they can, and they understand that and understand the methodology in which we play. We try to play the same way as the first team, and you know that's the disappointing part of it. You know, there's definitely, as you said, previous games they've really set a really good standard, and that's a wee bit that disappoints. You know, that you're one or two and probably not hitting the heights that they have in the past, which we know they can do. But it's not about them, it's about everything as well. You know, it's about they take the knocks, as long as they learn from it. That's what this experience is about as well, making sure they learn, particularly coming here, because if you come here and you're having to play in front of 60,000 fans, it's a different thing altogether.
Tom, it's obviously all about the development, of the players. What do you think playing in that environment tonight does for a young player?
I don't think you can, mirror it anywhere. I think when you go out there, and as I say, I refer to the fans as well. I think it's great. The fans, they get that backing. It's noisy throughout. You see the pitch. The pitch is immaculate as well. You know, it's in really good condition. And why wouldn't you want to play good football in that place out there? You know, I think we'd all like to be out there. So yeah, I think they'll be fine. As I said, they'll be hurt, but I think they'll bounce back quickly.
It's the first time I've actually seen Bosun Lowell playing. He's just like physically made for first team football, I would say. Would you agree with that?
I think, I think he's been a real find. He had a bad injury there and he was out for a long period of time, and then there was some other medical problems. And he's come back and he went away with Republic. I think he can do more, and he'll probably say the same thing. You know, I think so. But that's up to the staff to make sure we get the best out of him. He's still young, but I think there's potential there. Like everybody else, there's potential. There's another finished article. But he's one hopeful for the future.
Heading into sort of the final league game of the season, how would you assess the season as a whole?
We've really enjoyed it. It's given us a games programme that we would never have had. So we've really enjoyed it. There's been some testing times. There's been times where we've had to throw in a lot of young players because of the injury situation. But I never ever use that as an excuse. For me, it's more of a positive. Young players come in. it's up to them to show what they can do. You know, you get Vata, that's a 2005. There's one or two others there, 04. So no, I don't have any issues in that. You know, I think the season itself has been really purposeful for us. I think it's gone well. There's been disappointments. There's been good wins as well. There's been a wee bit of kind of imbalance in how we play. There's been some good consistency as well. We've learned a lot about the squad. So yeah, I think the season's been really good.
So that was Tommy McIntyre there. Again, great for Celtic to get fan media in last night, just to find out a little bit more about some of the thinking that goes on at B-team level, what Tommy McIntyre looks for in his players, where he thinks players can improve, etc. As I say, I spoke to a couple of scouts during the game last night, and one of them told me that the effects of Brexit mean that effectively every major club in England would have had a scout here tonight. There were numerous other high-profile figures at the game. It's worth saying Ange Postecoglou was here, as were his backroom team, Messrs. I've no idea where I said Messrs, but Gavin Strachan, John Kennedy and Stephen McManus as well. Peter Lawwell was also here. Is all I will say. Interesting. But he was here as well. I also saw Callum Davidson, the St Johnstone manager, for some reason. I saw Kenny Miller, who I was kind of hiding from after my wee April Fool's joke a few weeks ago about him appearing on the channel. Rudi Vata, obviously father of Rocco Vata, who I touched on a minute ago, was also here as well. I was hiding from him as well because I once played a charity game about 2 or 3 years ago, and I scored an own goal. It was accidental. It was a deflection rather than an own goal. And Rudi Vata shouted at me a lot. And it was a charity game, but it didn't feel like a very charitable gesture at that stage from him. So I was hiding from him as well as Kenny Miller. And in general, a lot of people here tonight, it's clear that there's a lot of players to keep an eye on in this Celtic team. And I think bright futures for a lot of them as well. Big opportunity for them tonight playing in front of that kind of support. Well done to everyone who came out and supported the team. And as I said earlier, let's give Rangers this one tonight, and we'll hopefully take the next couple of big ones over the next 2 or 3 weeks when it really, really matters at first team level. Back to Hamish in the studio. Thank you. And it does indeed matter a hell of a lot at the weekend. I feel like we've been tiptoeing around this game for a wee while on the channel over the last few days. From tomorrow onwards, I can assure you we are previewing this match like mad. We've got Jackie McNamara on the channel. We've also got a good guest on Friday's video as well, and on Saturdays as well actually, when it will be the proper preview to the match. So full steam ahead from tomorrow onwards, and we will have the reaction of course on Sunday after the game as well. Just hoping for another 40,000 views on that one if Celtic get the right result. As it stands, the game last night, the Glasgow Derby, will be the only Glasgow Derby I see in the flesh this week. Still looking for a ticket for Sunday. I've got the begging bowl out again, everyone. If anyone hears of any going, just give me a shout. Slide into my DMs, I think, as people maybe said about 10 years ago. Not a problem if not. I won't hold it against you for too long. But yeah, that's where I am. We're still getting around 100 subs a day. They're just absolutely flying at the moment. So if you're watching this and I've just realised that you're not subscribed to the channel, and believe it or not, still more than 50% of you that watch our videos aren't subscribed to the channel, don't know what you're playing at, then come aboard. It's a great, great family community to be part of. 67 Hail Hail. We're back tomorrow with Jackie McNamara, and we'll speak to you then.